The Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship is a really unique event because it has to take two formats, combine them under one roof, and then create essentially a new custom ban list for that event and let it play out. In the 2019 World Championship, which was actually the last World Championship, the Forbidden and Limited list actually combined both lists, with the harsher hit taking precedence. So for example, if the OCG had max C at 3, but the TCG had max C at 0, meaning Forbidden, the TCG list would take effect and max C would be forbidden for that event only. In addition to that, there's also a special, unique Forbidden and Limited list for that event, consisting of things like promos and TCG or OCG exclusive that have only been released on one side of the world. So with that in mind, how can we prepare to watch and play the World Championship coming this summer? And try to figure out how the ban list will actually look like, which decks are the biggest winners, and which decks become unplayable. But first, if you want to support me and the channel, use my affiliate links in the description below, and you can also become a YouTube member to get early access to deck lists, exclusive Discord access, and much more. So let's start discussing this. Before we begin, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you are new as always. This is a really interesting video in my opinion, taking a look at the World Championship in first time in like 3 or 4 years. What is that going to look like? Things have changed in Yu-Gi-Oh! So much, and it's really interesting to compare both TCG and OCG lists. So let's talk about some things that the TCG has hit that are actually free and legal in the OCG. The first thing, and is a really fresh one of that, is Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow and Block Dragon. This is one of the decks that is performing the best at the OCG right now. It's sort of a Scarecrow Earth Pile deck with Block Dragon, and right now, currently, Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow has just been banned, and Block Dragon has been banned for a few years now. So that means that strategy is essentially dead because Super Heavy Samurai and of course the Earth strategy are kind of dead in the water because of those cards being banned. Another thing, this is probably the most notable one, Max C 0 in the TCG, at 3 in the OCG. That really changes things for the OCG players coming to play in the World Championship, because the format is kind of warped around Max C, and of course Max C is not going to be legal in that tournament. Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, is actually not banned in the OCG at all. It's not seeing a ton of play, but it is a very strong card that is completely legal in the OCG. But again, in the TCG it's banned. It's going to be banned for this event too. Other notable cards that are banned and not banned in the OCG are Curious, Aurora Dawn, and Electromite. 3 very powerful link monsters that are actually banned in the TCG but not banned in the OCG. They're going to be banned for this event too. Kaiser Coliseum, Chicken Game, again cards that are banned in the TCG, not going to be legal. That Grass Looks Greener. This is one of the most impactful cards, again, with Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow and Block Dragon in sort of like an Earth Pile deck. This card is not going to be legal for that event, so that strategy kind of dies right there and then. Called by the Grave is actually at 2 in the OCG, but at 1 in the TCG, so the format is going to be played with Called by at 1, which I think kind of makes sense since Maxi is not going to be legal for the event anyway. Mathmax Circular is at 3 in the OCG, but at 1 in the TCG. It's going to be limited for this event, and actually Mathmax have been doing really well in the OCG recently, but again, it's probably going to take a hit because of that. Pearly Delicious Memory. Pearly has actually been one of the strongest and most consistent winning decks in the OCG for a while now. This is a very harsh hit for the OCG players coming to play in the World Championship. This deck is really probably one of the best decks, even if not the best deck in the OCG currently. But again, it's going to take a massive hit because of this, and this is how it's going to play out. And lastly, Kashtira Arise Heart is at 1 in the TCG. I don't think it really matters because we're going to talk about the OCG now, and you'll see every Visas card being limited. So now a few things on the other side, on the OCG list. What does the OCG look like in terms of a ban list, and what will actually take effect in the World Championship? So, Wandering Griffin Rider is banned straight up. There is no adventure engine. Rite of Aramis here is also semi-limited currently. It's probably going to be released soon to 3 because Griffin Rider is just straight up banned. Totally awesome. Again, banned as well. That strategy is not going to happen in the World Championship. Listen to this. Bestials, Magnamut, Boldrake, Droizworm, and the Bestia Lubellion are all limited in the OCG. This is really crazy, but this means that Dragon strategies, Dragon Link strategies, but also counterplays are really impacted because, you need Bestials to counter things like Sky Strikers, Mathmech, Branded, and you're just not going to have that engine because everything is limited, which is nuts. Kashtira, Fenrir, Unicorn, and the Field Spell Pressured Planet Wraithzoth all are limited in the OCG, which means they're going to be limited in the TCG as well in that event. And right now, Kashtira is probably one of the best decks of the format here in the TCG because, it hasn't really taken any hits besides Diablosis and Arise Heart. The engine itself is at full power, but again, in the OCG, it's all limited. Another really popular engine that is limited in the OCG is Sprite. Jet, Blue, and Starter are all limited in the OCG, which means in the World Championship, they're all going to be limited as well. Right now, Runic and Sprite variants have been doing really well in the new format, but again, this is all going to be limited. This might be good for Runic variants because they play a smaller amount of sprites, but we'll talk about it a bit later. And then, Branded looks a bit different than it does in the TCG. Branded Fusion and Branded Opening are limited. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is banned. Nadir Servant and Super Polymerization are semi-limited. But the deck is actually doing relatively well in the OCG currently. It's doing good. It's playing a lot of weird starters, a lot of weird ratios, but it is topping and winning events still. With these limitations, interesting to see what will happen. Crossroad Designator and Fusion Destiny are at 1. Interesting and weird. Flandre's in the Magnificent Map. Flu isn't seeing a lot of play here. Barrier Statue is banned over there as well. So Flu still taking a hit. And then Shizu and Tier Limits. Everything is limited. We have everything limited, but we also have 3 Pearl Rhino and 3 Rhino Heart. But the OCG also has 1 Rhino Heart and 1 Pearl Rhino, which is really interesting because that really severely hits Tier's chances of being a contender at Worlds. Skill Drain is at 1, which is beautiful. Dimension Shifter is at 2, and Pot of Prosperity is at 2. So this is how it's going to look like. A lot of cards that actually make a lot of impact in both formats are going to be limited, kind of narrowing down the lists and making players look elsewhere for good strategies. So what decks could actually be viable in the World Championship because of this new ban list? I'm going to talk about 5 decks that I think could be sleepers, but let me know in the comments what did I miss and what other decks. I'm sure there's a lot of other decks that could pop up. This is one of the reasons that Blue Eyes White Dragon actually won Worlds, because considering both ban lists, it was the only playable deck, so consider that. But I think we're not gonna, go as low as Blue Eyes. Sky Striker is interesting. Engage is at 2 in both formats. Kagari is unlimited. There's new support. Triple Tactic Thrust and Talents are unharmed, which are really good. The board breakers are like at 2. Raigeki is at 2. Lightning Storm is going to be at 2 as well. Bestials and Dimension Shifter are weakened in this format because there's barely any Bestials. Shifter is at 2, so maybe Striker can actually do some work. Another deck is Runic for Hire. Runic Engine in both formats is just semi-limited field spell, and that's it. So, they play a very small sprite package, which works well with the limitations in the OCG. Runic is not armed at all, basically. And then there's also Runic Stun variants that, even though it's not a very exciting deck, it is a playable deck that does really well in the OCG. And, Floodgates are pretty much unharmed besides Skill Drain in this format, so maybe that's a thing. Vanquish Soul has been doing well in both formats. So, again, there's nothing really hit in the deck. Maybe Prosperity, is at 2 in this format, but Vanquish Soul, relatively new, got all the gas still in the tank. And, it's been doing well in both formats. So because of that, it's just going to be a really consistent, contender in this format as well. Number 4 is going to be Labyrinth. I think Labyrinth is doing exceptionally well in both formats right now. TCG, OCG, they're both topping and winning events. We just had an event won by Labyrinth. Again, strong format, very consistent deck. The Floodgates and the Traps and the Engine are completely unharmed. Skill Drain is at 1, but, sometimes they don't even play Skill Drain. And since it's doing well in both formats and it's not really hit because of this combined ban list, it's probably going to do well. And then we have Tier Limits and Kashtira variants. Tier Limits is Shizu, combined with some Kashira stuff because everything is at 1, so they just throw 1-ups into the deck. It's still doing good in the OCG. It's doing okay sometimes in the TCG as well. We have, Bestials are running wild, but right now in the OCG it's looking good. So maybe that combined ban list could actually make Tearlament a contender for Worlds. I would personally really love to see that. Let's see what they can do without Kit Kalos. So yeah, I think this is very interesting to look at this combined ban list. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think is going to be the best deck in Worlds? What deck did I forget to mention? Also, leave a thumbs up on the video as always, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.